We are live. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Undead 3XVI, and welcome to episode 19 of the Gaming Perspective podcast. We have a great episode ahead for you guys. A lot of topics. There was a lot of news this week. It was like E3 2.0 out here. Oh,
way too much news.
There was I plagiarized that from a tweet from Atlanta Pierce. My bad. And we'll get into the introductions before we dive into today's topics. As Sam shaking his head at me already. You knew this was going to be a shaky episode. You saw the topics list. So I'll introduce our editor for the Inner Circle Games Network, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey, guys. There's way too much news. Let's get going.
All right. And Jared, writer for the Inner Circle.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. I guess let's get talking.
Yeah, so this is the Inner Circle podcast, apparently. Well, we're the pre-show. We're the warm-up. Because Eric's away today. He had some family stuff, so wishing him the best on his Saturday night. Hopefully he enjoys himself. We'll gloss over the game of the week for this week. I was supposed to cover it this week, but there's too much news for me to do a 10-minute dive in on a game. So we're going to jump right into the big huzzah this week has been, let's take a stab at what people are angry at this week. Games journalism. Yay.
They're all trash.
Oh, God.
They're all the same because
it's about games journalism in ethics.
Yes, game journalism and ethics. I hate every time there's however there's any form of issue or anything with games journalists. I'll always have a couple of people fly into my mentions and go, "How do you even call yourself a games journalist? How do you live with yourself with that title?" I'm like, "I write articles about video games. Leave me alone."
I just write up the news. I don't make it. I don't make this happen.
I'm just giving it to the masses. Just leave me alone. I'm so sorry.
All right, so if you've been living under a rock this week or decide to uninstall your Twitter for a week, which more power to you if you did that. So there's a gentleman by the name of Philip. I'm going to slaughter his last name. I'm sorry, Mayukix or Meekix. He works for IGN. He was one of the, and Sam's cat is rampant.
Holy shit.
He was a journalist in charge of a review for Dead Cells. He was the editor of the review and everything else. He was on, wasn't he IGN's Nintendo podcast, or was he on?
Yeah, he was on their Nintendo podcast, which I'm embarrassed to say I don't actually know the name of because I don't actually watch. Sorry, my apologies.
Well,
but
understandably, if no one watches IGN's Nintendo podcast on this show, it's because none of us have Switches. If you don't have a Switch, watching Nintendo podcast is kind of
kind of boring, if we're being honest.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, look at this game that I can't play on a system I don't have.
Oh, I'm so excited for it.
But regardless, I actually knew this guy before, and I actually watched a fair amount of his content and everything else, and he was a really good content creator. He's a YouTuber that got hired on by IGN. Really promising kind of young talent that way. So he had a lot of promise and talent, and he's definitely an up-and-comer, and I've read some of his reviews. I don't read reviews very often unless they're outside of my circle. Like I read Sam's, I read some of Jez Corden's, I watch Rand's reviews on YouTube. Very few reviewers I'll watch because I prefer to make opinions of the games on my own rather than have someone's preconceived conceptions of a game going into it.
Tony Polanco had a very good thread on that on Twitter. If you are looking to be a reviewer for games, go read it because he's absolutely right. Once I started reviewing games, even back before my tech days, back when I was at RGM, I stopped reading game reviews, even for games that I wasn't going to review because it affected my thought process.
It's actually one of the reasons why I don't read reviews in general, or why it's actually one of the major reasons I kind of never have read reviews in general, is because I'd rather form an opinion of my own and not have others influence my outlook, because that little bit of a viewpoint could affect whether you actually end up liking the game or not. And I really think you should just be 100% your own opinion, not any outside influence whatsoever.
Yeah, for sure. And that plays into it too, because like I gave this guy a benefit of a doubt when people are like he plagiarized in a review. I gave him benefit of a doubt because I know sometimes, and I say this is a very rare occasion, sometimes a small case of plagiarism can happen by accident. You read someone's reviews, you read someone's thoughts, and then you go type up your own words. It comes out sounding very close to the same as that person's original thoughts. So that's a way plagiarism can happen. I've seen that happen. And then the writer goes, I'm sorry, I listened to this guy's thing, blah, 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 blah. It usually solves itself very professionally.
Yeah.
However, this guy didn't just have one similar thought. This was basically a slightly reworded whole review of a gentleman, Boomstick Gaming, which I do not have a link for this gentleman's YouTube channel. I didn't follow him prior to this either. And so this gentleman made a video saying, IGN plagiarized my review. What do I do? So this started gaining traction on social media a few days ago in the morning, and I kind of read it. I read it and I went, huh. So I clicked watch the video, and the insurmountable proof that this had happened was absolutely insane. There was no way that you could deny that this wasn't plagiarized from start to finish, which is unfortunate. So what IGN did is they pulled the review immediately. They pulled the review immediately and said, we're putting this under review. Give us time. We need to make sure this is done correctly. They took 24 hours, came to the conclusion, yes, the review was plagiarized. They fired Philip. They said that they apologized profusely. They did a follow-up saying that they apologized to Mr. Boomstick personally and provide a link for everyone to check out his review instead, and said they would work their hardest with their review team to get a new review for Dead Cells out, and apologize to the developers for someone taking credit for that review. All in all, I think IGN deserves a round of applause for how they handled the situation. The fact they had that whole issue done, wrapped up, and finished in a 48-hour period is astounding.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind me interjecting, Nick, I'll keep my thoughts on this subject brief because I'm already tired of it, honestly, from the exhausting week seeing this nonsense. But IGN handled this, I think, the best way humanly possible. They absolutely did, especially considering that the guy in charge of the editors and their reviewers, Dan Stapleton, came back from vacation on the very day that this happened, and that all this hell broke loose. So, like, yeah, they handled this to the best of their ability, and they deserve every praise for what they've done here.
I agree.
If only that were the end of it.
Now, see, and the thing was, after all this wrapped up, I wasn't even going to make this a podcast topic because I was like, this is done. This is wrapped up, handled well. It's not even an issue. And then...
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. This guy decided to make a video, and this wasn't an apology video.
It's an excuse
you do not entitle an apology video basically saying my side. You plagiarized a whole review. There is no my side. There is you plagiarized a review, you apologize, and you hope people forgive you. That's the end all and be all of that issue. But this guy came out and was like, well, I kind of sort of copied some of this. Didn't outright say he plagiarized it. Said that Boomstick does a fantastic job and he hopes this guy gets some social media traction, but also in that same breath accused Boomstick of trying to use his name to get him clout on the internet, essentially. Saying that this guy, that Boomstick was trying to use Philip's reputation to elevate himself, and that was low. It was very low of him to come at Philip like that instead of just DMing him. And then he went on to say that Jason Schreier, who does very good investigative journalist, we all have different views of Jason on this panel, but Jason Schreier's investigative journalist pieces are fantastic and always well written and well researched. So this guy said basically that Jason Schreier promoted harassment towards him and that him and his family had received threats and death threats and et cetera, because Jason decided to take it so far and that it didn't need to be taken that far, and said that Jason needed to calm down, basically. Really? So there's a couple things with this video. A, he never apologized, which is absolutely astounding to me. B, didn't even take responsibility for it. C, didn't take responsibility for the consequences because he just blamed Jason Schreier for the updrum of it. Whether Jason looked into it or not, this would have become a big issue. And the absolute topper, he monetized the video. He monetized the apology video.
He knows everybody's going to want to see it.
Because he removed it a few hours ago.
Did he really?
Oh. Yeah, he deleted the video. About 4 hours ago, he deleted the video.
Wow, so people were pretty pissed, eh?
The like to dislike ratio was something like 40-1. Though, surprisingly enough, there was a lot of people that were defending him, saying that this shouldn't define his career and everything else. And Jason Schreier all day has been releasing more and more and more reviews that this guy's plagiarized from people. There's journalists that have come forward stating that this guy has plagiarized their reviews, and people are cutting and putting together the pieces. I think the current count is they're at like 7 plagiarized reviews right now.
Yeah, some from Nintendo Life and Engadget and other places like that too.
So, safe to say that obviously I'm never going to watch a second of this guy's content anymore, because obviously I can get his content from other people because it's just other people's content. But that being said, I'm going to ask a very basic question. Do you think this will damage opportunities for YouTubers and people that don't have university or college degrees in writing and being able to break into news media sites like IGN? Because
sorry, you're not done. Go ahead.
Yeah, because Philip was one of the few people, because anyone who tries to get freelance work or anything like that knows that if you go through IGN, PC Gamer, Kotaku, Polygon, most of the time they want you to have a degree in journalism or something of equal accuracy, or
at least have studied it in some capacity, or have worked for a publication beforehand that the experience would be equal to having said degree.
Exactly. So those are the kind of requirements they have. He was one of the first people IGN hired that was a quote-unquote social media hire, because he was a YouTuber that did really great content, and they hired him because of his content. Do you think, because of this debacle, do you think it's over? Do you think IGN won't ever hire like this again and they'll stick to hiring journalism students?
That's a good question.
Jared, do you want to go on first on this? Or?
I really don't have a whole lot to say other than I would like for them to do that, just because I feel they are actually hiring people who are more actually legitimately interested in that field other than just being a YouTube content creator, because you can kind of really do that about anything. And they're mainly a video games, focused platform. So if they hired someone who's a video games focused journalist student, I'd rather have them hire someone like that than, like I said, like a regular YouTube content creator, because I think they'd have more of an interest into them, more of a passion, and in the end, they'll end up writing more quality content other than just for views and clicks and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think it's going to affect things. I think IGN is going to be a lot more careful in terms of what types of YouTubers they were to hire or to look at in the future. Like, they will absolutely be vetting more carefully and very, very carefully. But I don't think this is going to affect them pulling from those pools of talent at all, simply because of the simple, basic, by the numbers fact that less students, are enrolling in journalism every year. It's a known fact. Like, I think since 2014 it decreased. 2017 the number decreased again. At least here in America. At least here in North America, I can tell you that is absolutely the case. So I don't really think they have a choice, if that makes any sense. Like, they are going to have to pull through, especially because social media has allowed, the rise of Twitter, Facebook, all this sort of thing has allowed smaller sites to spring up YouTube has allowed YouTubers to spring up, and it's allowed people to see that just because someone may not have studied something, they might make up for it with an innate talent for that subject. In this case, journalism and mass media promotions, marketing, communication, social investigation, talking to people, having a good way with words, writing well. Those aren't things that necessarily have to be taught, even though they absolutely can be, and I think should be. I think the pursuit of journalism is a wonderful thing to pursue in education. But I know that's a really long-winded way of saying this, but I think they're going to be more careful, but I don't think they're going to stop it pulling from non-degree students, if that makes any sense at all.
But no, that's kind of the answer I was kind of looking for, is I was just wanting to see, like, the chances of someone like, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm not going anywhere. But, like, for example, if I ended up doing a really good catalog of work for Tick, would I be able to apply for somewhere with like IGN, or would they be like, no journalism degree, no bueno kind of deal? Because there is that wall for some people. But as you said, there's less and less people going through for journalism. So with less and less people having that qualification and less people wanting to do specifically games journalism, that will change significantly going forward. But I definitely think these sites, when they're hiring, especially based off social media personas, they have to be very careful in who they hire and look into things. It's harder to check for plagiarism in video reviews versus written reviews.
Right. That's another thing I've seen here, is like they should have done more. It's like, okay, should IGN maybe have investigated this guy more and put him through the ringer a little bit more before they allowed him to do something like this? That might be a separate topic altogether. I don't want to go that route. But this was a video review that plagiarized a video review, unless I'm horribly mistaken. Am I horribly mistaken? Nope. So checking for plagiarism in that kind of context is borderline impossible, and that's assuming that someone else is editing your work, and he was the editor on this work.
Yeah.
So it's
there's
nothing to be done.
And that's the thing. There's literally not, like, besides vetting hires closer, there's literally nothing IGN could do about that. And they corrected it almost immediately and handled it professionally and to a T. And I just want to give IGN the credit they deserve, and the fact that anytime they had that specific site has an issue, it's sorted within 24 hours.
Exactly. They took care of that.
Whether you had that tasteless meme post that happened on Facebook or anything like that, IGN is always on top of that aspect of their site, which it takes a lot. Like, it takes a lot with just the inner circle, and like just with a site our size to, check the writers, make sure they're doing everything correctly, make sure everyone's doing. I can't imagine on a site the size of IGN how much effort that would take to make sure everything's like 100% A-okay. And there's obviously, with that many people, your room for error is that much higher. So that pretty much wraps up that talk. I know it was beat to death by a horse all week. I didn't really want to cover it, but his video just pissed me off. Was basically all I could get from that. So we're going to actually talk about games, because that's what this is about here. So as everyone knows, this weekend is QuakeCon, the #1 convention besides E3 that I want to go to, because I'm a Bethesda fanboy. But we got some really cool trailers this week. We're going to talk about Doom Eternal first. I'm not going to lie. When Doom showed up at E3, it was kind of like everyone had teased Doom 2. I was kind of like, do we really need a Doom 2? Because it was like, how do you improve on Doom 2016? It was the thing,
if I remember correctly, Nick, it was the thing we were least sure of in our Bethesda predictions, right? We were kind of like, maybe, but they could get away with not doing it as well.
Yeah, because you and me's general conclusion was Doom 2016 came out 2 years ago, basically. What could they have added to this game to make it different enough to deserve a sequel?
Well,
swords and grappling hooks. Swords and grappling hooks.
Swords, grappling,
start.
And not just swords, but like a giant predator wrist blade. Like, and a shoulder-mounted flamethrower / grenade launcher, and the ability to like do first-person parkour like in Dying Light, and you can swing off of poles. You can grab onto them and hurl yourself, and or use the momentum from the grappling hook. You can pull yourself into a demon or pull the demon to you, depending on what size it is. It's the movement options. Okay, the movement in Doom was already frenetic. It's already a very fast-paced, twitchy shooter that plays unlike, I would say, would you guys agree it plays unlike any other modern shooter?
Oh, definitely.
Out there? Like it's not really like anything else. So if that's the case, like how do you improve on that? By adding that level of verticality, where it's not you having to go up a set of stairs or fall down a level. Now you can just yank yourself up. It's awesome.
The traversal system in there is really, really good. And like the other two things is that now there's 40 plus different types of demons in there too. And not just that, but destructible demons as well. I thought that was really cool. It's not just, a giant bullet sponge that you see some blood flying now as when you fill them up with full bullets sort of thing. But now chunks of flesh or like their armor come breaking off when you use certain weapons in your arsenal and sort of thing. And you go, huh. Never thought about that. That's actually pretty cool.
Can we talk about the the chain-fed barrel cycling shotgun?
Yeah, you can now turn your shotgun into a Gatling shotgun.
You know what? I've noticed that because it almost seems like each gun will now come with like certain attachments that you can use.
Right, like the machine gun in Doom 2016. I can't say the first game because. Thank you, studios. Thank Doom, God of War, for renaming your game the name of the first one. It's getting really old. But in that one, you had to get the scope as an attachment. You had to unlock it throughout play, but now you've got it by default. So what I'm thinking is it's not going to be like you mysteriously lose all your upgrades. I mean, all the guns are going to be fully upgraded with the last game's upgrades from the get-go, and then you have to upgrade them with all the new stuff.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
I feel like you talked about the movement system there, Sam. We talked about how it didn't feel like any other shooter. I feel like that's because ID Software is still making first-person shooters like it's 1990s still.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? That's actually, believe it or not, I was showing my mom the footage for Doom Eternal. She loved it. And she even mentioned that this looks like a much older game in a next-gen skin. If that makes any sense.
I think that's kind of the feel they've been trying to keep was like, it's that classic Doom formula that you've always been,
similar.
It's similar but different at the same time. It's the classic formula, but with a new gen twist sort of thing. And you go, this actually fits really, really well.
Yeah, I will always say that ID Software, when it comes to FPS games, they are like god tier in the FPS genre when it comes to their games. There's no one that does single player FPS mechanically like they can. And that's why I'm so excited for Rage 2.
Oh yeah.
What they're going to do with that game. Like that's
with Avalanche's help this time.
Yes. And like Avalanche did such a good job with Mad Max that I'm excited to see the world they can build with ID Software helping them with the I think Rage 2 is going to be the breakout game. I think when Rage 2
for Avalanche, you mean?
Pardon
me? For Avalanche, you're saying it'll be the breakout game for Avalanche. I agree. People are just now coming around to the idea that, you know what? Mad Max wasn't actually bad.
It was great. I loved it.
Mad Max was a good game. It's probably one of the better licensed games out there. I think the problem is, A, it wasn't perfect. B, there's way too much crap crammed in there. Like, holy crap, the map is busy with icons. And then C, there was this little game called Metal Gear Solid 5 that kind of came out around the same time. So that didn't exactly help things out.
But Mad Max was better than Metal Gear Solid 5, though.
Yikes, we're going to get banned.
Careful.
But yeah, so no, Doom 2, Rage 2, I mean not Doom 2, Doom Eternal, Rage 2, both of those games look absolutely
fantastic.
Phenomenal. Bethesda has unleashed a first-person shooter renaissance this gen. Do you guys realize that, like, Wolfenstein The New Order, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, Doom, and now we're going to get Rage 2 and Doom Eternal. That's just
some pretty fantastic FPS games.
It's awesome.
And I also want to do a brief talk about. I know you guys haven't been playing it, but I actually downloaded Quake since it went free.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice. I've actually meant to download that. I need to.
And that game has made me forget how much I miss the 90s. And it's so amazing that Bethesda as a whole can still give that 1990s PC gaming feel in 2018. And like, I forgot how much I love just fast-paced, pure arcade. Like, everyone calls Call of Duty an arcade shooter. Quake is like the purest form of arcade reflex shooter.
Yep.
And it's just fun. And I think that them making it free to play, that's awesome. More people can play it. Everything else, I'm all with it. It was absolutely fantastic. It's great to see FPS genre still thriving, and it's great to see games that are based around mechanics still being good. And what I mean by that is I love cinematic games. I love cinematic games. Like, story-based games are great. But sometimes I want a single-player game where it's just about how good the gameplay is. And, like, who really cared for the story of Doom 2016? Who was playing that for the story?
I'm not going to lie. Okay, now wait a minute. In a twisted way, 50, I actually was, because it was an anti-story. You know, Samuel Hayden contacts you. Spoilers, but come on, the game's been out for a while now, and I'm not spoiling that much. In the very opening, he's like, I need you to do this for me. You need to understand what's going on. And the Doom Marine, the Doomslayer, just grabs the view screen. He's like, nope, don't care. And he's like, no, don't do it. Don't wreck this. We need this equipment. You don't understand our operation on Mars. Like, LOLs, I'm wrecking it. It's just, I loved how completely, what's the word? Anti-mission control, I guess.
Yep.
Gone rogue.
Yeah, instead of having to listen to the guy telling you over the loudspeaker what to do, like in every other game ever, especially first-person shooters, it's just the Doomslayer making his way through all the hordes of hell and just cutting them down while ignoring everything else around him. I loved it. But it does seem like they're taking the story very seriously. If you watch the panel, not just the gameplay footage, they talk about how they want to make a Doom universe. And they're taking the lore very seriously, and they want to evolve the setting. The game is going to take place in multiple locations. Oh, they've confirmed that it's going to have not only Hell on Earth, which has been unleashed, but also the Phobos station, where there are other human beings alive, which astounded me.
That'd be
so.
Sweet.
That's
I think definitely deserves like that multi-planet kind of sort of level-based gameplay, just because I agree with them. There could be so much that you can do in the Doom universe that would be very beneficial, I think, to the series, that they could also expand on, and not just, maybe an FPS genre down the road, but maybe some weird RPG Fallout kind of.
Let's not get too crazy.
I know.
But you know what? But it's interesting you say that, though. They are taking in mechanics from other things, like borrowing the Dark Souls invasion system, where you can now play as a demon and invade someone else's world. Like, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Love to do that, just because it actually makes me think a little bit of the Dying Light multiplayer as well, where you played the zombie against the survivors, but also Evolve, if you ever played that long ago, where you're like the big giant monstrous beast you got to fight against the 4 hunters sort of thing. I liked that game, but I liked it more so just because I could play the monster. If I could play something usually playing, like a demon, the wicked ass zombie, or giant monster in a game for multiplayer, that piques my interest more to play the game than it does for a regular co-op kind of multiplayer experience. So I think that'd be a lot of fun to do.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm back, guys. Sorry for dipping there for a second.
No worries, brah.
No worries. We were just gushing about Doom Eternal, just the invasion mechanics, talking about how they're evolving the lore, just all of it. It's so good.
See, this is the thing that kills me, is like Bethesda always gets they always get, usually what I see on social media is a lot of people go, Bethesda, they just release buggy bad games. Keeping in mind that they're publishing Wolfenstein and Doom not developing.
It just makes you want to strangle someone. You just want to go up to them and say, what are you thinking?
But Machine Games and ID Software have grown games that didn't have stories. The character development of BJ Blazkowicz, to me, is one of the best character progressions that I've seen of a video game character across a franchise. Like in the New Order, you're like, okay, I see you. I understand you. You're angry. I get it. And then Wolfenstein 2 is so overlooked because we always talk about diversity in video games. There's a huge diversity in that cast in that game.
Oh, yeah.
The emotional level pitch that game hits at some points is absolutely astounding.
Mm-hmm.
The story writing in it was phenomenal. And to top it off, it had some of the best gameplay mechanics. Like, come on, the throwing hatchet? Like, come on.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of things you can do with a Nazi and a hatchet. I love that. I love that.
Like, no, and like the marketing for that game was brilliant because you had all that political strife that was going on in America with Nazis popping back up, and everyone was freaking out about that. And Bethesda just went, "Hey, you want to kill Nazis? We got a game for them." And like, it's such a well done franchise. And seeing how they're trying to grow Doom Eternal, it makes me appreciate how they laid the groundwork with the first game and then are building on it. And to me, that's what makes a perfect sequel. Yeah. When you take what people love about your first game and then you add to it.
I agree. It's the only way you can really, in my mind, truly progress a good franchise is you take what was good from the first game or the previous games and don't reinforce the bad ones. That you go, oh, we think this would be good. That's why you put it there in the first place. You take the fan feedback and you go, so this is what everybody loved. Let's make it maybe a little bit better, but also expand on specifically those aspects of what the fans like, because it's just going to end up selling the game more. It's kind of just simple logic for a lot of things, but unfortunately, we don't see a lot of franchises that do that properly as well.
Yeah, and it's the thing that bugs me, and like this is a little side thing. It's how we're always talking about how we want to support single player games. Single player games are the most important. All we have is service based multiplayer games. That's all that thrives. Blah 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 blah. Yet people blatantly will ignore the Dishonored series, Prey, Doom, Wolfenstein, Evil Within. I know those are mainly Bethesda franchises, but Bethesda's been propping up the single player story genre for a long time, and they are doing it at a loss. Like when Evil Within 2 got announced, I haven't played the first one or the second one. I'm guilty of that. I'm such a chicken when it comes to horror games. It took me like 6 weeks to beat Outlast because I play it for 20 minutes, almost have a heart attack, and then have to go back to it the next day. So like, I haven't gone into the Evil Within, but Evil Within 1 did really, really well. It did acceptable numbers, especially for a new IP. Evil Within 2 did less than that, which is unfortunate because from my understanding, Evil Within 2 astronomically built on the first game.
It's fantastic.
It's infinitely a better game. Oh, you've played it, Jared? You've played it?
Of course I have.
Dude, you played the first one, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you would agree with me. You bear with me here. You would agree in saying that the first one is a decent horror game with cheesy voice acting and cheesy lines, and the second one is like infinitely better.
Oh,
it's crazy how much better it is.
They really turned that game, or I wouldn't say the game because it's the second one, but they turned that franchise around 180 degrees and went, okay, this one worked, but now what can we do overall for this game to make it better? And they said, here you go. And that's exactly how it turned out. As soon as you play it, you can tell, like, it's classic. It's just the classic game, and it's just really, really well done. I'm still kind of blown away from it. And the other thing that I need to do now is I need to go back to that game and beat it again in first person, because it was an entirely over the shoulder, third person aspect game.
Right. I love that. I love the way Bethesda supports their games. Like Hey, by the way, so yeah, we've made a first-person perspective. You can play the entire game in. It wasn't built for it, but here you go.
Yeah, and you go, wait, what? That's like you're playing the same game twice, but it's almost completely different as well because in that type of a game with the combat mechanics that it has, it works really well for third person, but you have to do a lot to also make it work well in first person. So I haven't done that yet, but I'm very curious to see how well it plays out, but I've heard nothing bad about it so far. So I'm just kind of like, I might actually sit down this Halloween and start it over again completely in first person. I'm not changing back to third person at all, excuse me. But that first person aspect is just really almost better for a horror game too. It depends though. It really depends on the game itself. But the first person could potentially be more suited for the Evil Within too.
Yeah. Actually, I was looking at the Xbox Marketplace. They got the original Evil Within for $9. So I'm just going to snag that up.
But, it might take you a couple months to finish it. It's messed up.
A couple of months to finish. I picked up Resident Evil 7 because Sam was like, you need to play it. You need to play it. And then I heard Anchor was playing it. So I was like, oh, now I definitely need to play it. So, yeah, maybe I'll stream it. People can laugh at me, piss my pants, and throw my headphones and run.
I got to give a shout out to Random Guy in the chat. He does a great job, by the way, going around time-stamping podcast. Oh I have to give him a shout out for that. He does a great job. But in the chat, he's saying that you and I need to play Dead Space 3 in co-op. And did I not tell you this in one of our private conversations just about a week ago? Yeah. Did I not say this exact same thing?
Yep.
So we have to do it now. We have to please do it now.
It's true. And yeah, really shout out to Random Guy. Just fantastic job time-stamping our show. Press start. He timestamps like 7 shows. This man is in every podcast. Him and Chief Tommy, I can guarantee you, if I start live streaming, they show up. It's absolutely consistent. You guys are honestly the best. So, oh yeah, I guess there's that other game trailer that came out this week. What was that game? It's got
some little cowboy game.
Yeah, some cowboy game. Even this joke is played out. Like I've heard so many people made that joke across the past week. So Red Dead 2 got its gameplay trailer finally.
But holy crap.
Well, yeah. The thing is I will say this a million times over. I'll pre-order a Rockstar game before I see gameplay. They could hold off on showing me the gameplay the Thursday before the game comes out on the Friday. And I'll still pre-order the game because it's Rockstar.
Dude, I know I've said on record, like, no one but Rockstar could get away with doing this. I've said that on this podcast. But you know what? That's why. Because that is what happens when you have around 1,200 of the most talented devs on the planet all crunching on a game for over 4 years. You get this insanity.
I mean,
it's like I'm sorry, guys, but like if you watched it, I feel safe in saying that is Naughty Dog level detail in an open world setting. The animations, like when the horse briefly shimmies backwards and you see the animation, like the momentum of the physics carry up through the player character and stuff on his shoulder rustles a bit. I'm like, holy crap. And reading about it, evidently, like even subtle things where if your hat gets shot off during gameplay, you have to pick it up and put it back on or else you'll lose the hat. It's not like clothing is actually, it's not static. And we all know the stories about why clothing is usually very static on characters, right? You don't see characters in games take their clothes off and put them back on frequently unless it's in a pre-recorded cutscene, because that takes texture animation, which costs money, which takes a very long period of time. Here, they're literally giving immersive sim elements on an open world third-person perspective. And I'll tell you this, I was already excited for Red Dead 2, but it has skyrocketed in my excitement list. It really has. I'll shut up. I'll let you guys talk about it. But
oh man, like I don't know what to say about it. Like you're going to be disappointed in me because I haven't finished the third Red Dead Redemption yet, even though I really should. And I did enjoy it to an extent, but then other games came out when I was playing it through for my first time, and I got sidetracked. But holy crap, this game looks incredible. The amount of detail, just the way that the open world interacts with your character, how your character interacts with the open world, all that sort of fun stuff. It's just, the type of RPG that true hardcore RPG fans will always want. And it's where Rockstar truly delivers for the games too, because they pay attention to that detail that, for me, it's always the small things that make up the big picture.
Yes.
Like if you look at the giant standout basics of what the game is, you only look at those. If you pay attention to the small things that are also implemented to make up that whole picture, though, you stand to have a greater appreciation for what the game is and how much work and detail put into the game.
Bingo. I could not have said that better myself, dude. Like whether it's the reload animations in The Order 1886 and the work Ready at Dawn did there, or like in State of Decay 2, if your car door is blocked, the character actually shimmies over and gets out of the car using another door. I'm a sucker for small details in games. Small details are what build the game up. And that's why I love immersive sims. That's why I like Dishonored. That's why I love Prey and Prey Mooncrash. That's why Arcane is one of my favorite studios. Yes, I saw someone mention We Happy Few in the chat. That's why I have big hopes for what Compulsion Games is going to become over the next few years.
Yeah, I haven't
but before we go there, does anyone else want to say anything else about Red Dead 2 beyond the fact that holy crap, it looks good?
Well, I just gotta say, people have been saying for the past few years, where's all the GTA money going? Where's all the GTA money going?
Right there.
Right there.
I was reading online, and they were talking about how they had 2 animators that worked extensively just on smoke coming from the guns.
What? Really?
They had 2 guys that their whole job at Rockstar Studios was having realistic, after you fire a bullet, the smoke from the barrel, having realistic smoke trails from the barrel of the gun.
Jeez.
Yep. To give you guys an idea, Rockstar Games is owned by Take-Two Interactive, right? You know that.
Yeah.
Take-Two owns quite a few studios. They have, like, off the top of my head, I think 16, 17 studios. Okay. You have to understand something. 8 of those studios, basically half of Take-Two, is Rockstar's various studios that all usually work on different things or different games. Like Rockstar London, for example, worked on like Midnight Club Los Angeles and did some PSP ports, contributed to GTA 5, things like that. All of Rockstar Games studios, all 8 of them, have been working on this game for the last 4 years.
Jeez,
the scale of what they are doing here is it's almost unheard of.
No kidding.
Almost. So yeah, this is going to be something crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and see, I'm one of those people. Like, I kind of had like a chip on my shoulder about Red Dead because they allocated so much resources to it, and I love Rockstar Games in general. Like, some of my favorite games last gen were like Bully. LA Noire is one of my favorite games of all time because it's so weird. And so unique, and Rockstar always pushes the boundaries with the games they make. And then, like, they announced Red Dead 2. I was like, oh, okay, so that's where all their resources are. Fine, I guess. The Red Dead Redemption 2, Red Dead Redemption, which is the second game in the series, but no one played the first one apparently, so we can get away with calling it 2. Was a good game. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess. Yeah, it's another way they can make another online mode to milk money out of people and yada, yada, yada. And after that gameplay trailer, I'm day one. I'm there. No problem. It looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see what kind of world they're going to build.
Oh, and there's fishing.
And there's fishing. It's so sad. Any point in time where I see a game that has fishing now, I immediately feel the need to tweet at Jez and be like, it has fishing. Then I realized like 19 other people did the same thing. So I was like, okay, we get.
Hey, you know what? I may not be quite there to the crazed levels that Jez Gordon is, but I love me some fishing. I have put in hours in fishing in Nier Automata and Final Fantasy 15 that I will not own up to. Okay, I like fishing. Fishing is fun in games. Sue me.
I remember when I was doing the Far Cry 5 review, And you're like, oh, you almost done the game? I'm like, well, I just spent 3.5 hours fishing. I got the achievement 20 minutes in, but I kept fishing for another 2.5 hours after that. It's just a fun waste time mechanic. I don't know what it is, but there's something about good fishing in video games that's just...
it's good.
It's good.
It's just good.
It's like a wholesome side mission thing you can do. It's great. All right, so next thing on the docket, we'll tackle the PlayStation 1 quickly. So PlayStation announced earlier in the week that they had sold 500 million PlayStations worldwide. It's the actual number is, I think, 5.25, or it's like,
right.
It's like 525 million.
Right. Now, that does include PS Vitas and PSPs. Just worth throwing that in to
yes, that's actually really important, because actually PSP accounts for, I think, something like 70 to 80 million. I didn't realize how well that sold.
Oh, the PSP sold really well. The PSP was incredibly well. I believe the units sold, rounded up, is actually somewhere closer to 82, 83 million, if I'm remembering correctly. Like, that was one of the reasons that made the Vita's lack of support even more disappointing, because the PSP was universally loved, sold really well. And I think the Vita, by comparison, has only sold, you know what, I'll just look it up. It sold maybe, approximately 14 to 15 million. Okay, so a bit of a drop off there.
A little bit of a drop.
A bit of drop off. The point is, though, over 100 million of the units counted are portable devices, and that's worth throwing in here.
Yeah, that's important to for the topic as a whole. But so 500 million PlayStation units sold, and to commemorate that, they came out with a custom console that I actually kind of dig. I dig the hardware they're selling with it too. That translucent blue gold headset is looking kind of mean.
It's nice.
It's wireless, and it's $119 Canadian for a wireless gold headset, that's pretty impressive for a wireless headset in Canada.
Yeah.
Retailing for $99 US, which I'm not sure about wireless headset prices in the States, but I imagine that's still a pretty good deal. So it's a PS Pro bundle. It's a PS4 Pro bundle. It's translucent blue. It's really, really pretty. It comes with a PlayStation camera, because that's what everyone wants that doesn't have VR, and a translucent blue PS4 controller, and the headset sold separately, and it retails for $500 American and $650 Canadian. Plus taxes, and
it's pricey.
It is pricey, but the thing is if you look at all the stuff that it's limited edition, so usually limited edition consoles are usually a little bit more pricey. I say usually because not always, and also in the fact the PlayStation camera obviously drives up the bundle price, and the most important part that a lot of sites didn't actually report on is the fact that it's got 2 terabyte hard drive instead of the PS4 Pro's 1 terabyte hard drive.
So the price is more than fair. It really is. Like, you can make an argument of, oh, they should have included a game instead of the camera, but it's like, at the end of the day, for what you're getting, $500, it's more than fair. It really is, especially because, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the only PS4 Pro to have a 2 terabyte hard drive.
Yes,
right?
It is. It's the first actual PlayStation product to have more than a terabyte hard drive.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Which kind of makes me hope that some of the PS4 Pros going forward will adopt that, because let's face it, even a terabyte now isn't what it used to be.
A terabyte is not anything. I have a 5 terabyte external hooked up to my Xbox One X, which has a terabyte as well, and I only have a terabyte of storage free.
I have a terabyte of 1 terabyte storage device just for recording clips.
Exactly.
Because the damn Xbox One X clips just take up way too much damn space.
You mean the same. I got a 4 terabyte external hard drive for my Xbox One X, and then I got a 4 terabyte external hub for my game clips and screenshots and stuff.
Yeah. So it's a really cool looking console. 50,000 of them only are being made. And what's really cool is something I actually reported on this on the TIC website too. You can check it out there. Is the serial numbers actually line up with specific dates in PlayStation history as well. Like there's a serial number that's the date for the original PS4 launch. There's one that has the serial number for the PSVR launch date, the original launch of the original PlayStation as well. So they've actually got some really unique serial numbers. And then, of course, the serial number that's number 1, which will be Shu's PS4 Pro, which he's going to have, which I imagine if they keep in classic PlayStation style, they'll auction that off for charity. That's what they usually do. So some lucky collector will get that.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is probably the most beautiful PlayStation console they've made, with the exception of the I think it was the 20th anniversary PS4.
That one was pretty good too.
With the classic skin and everything else. Unfortunately, that was a lot more pricier at the time, though.
That was also even more limited. That was limited to 20,000 units.
Yeah, it was 20,000 units. It wasn't it was a couple $100 more than the standard PS4, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And let me see here. What is that going for on Amazon right now? That goes used. This is used in good condition on Amazon for about $600. Like new goes for about $999, and brand new goes for around $1,400 US. So this one, just to give you a ballpark of what we're talking about here, this one is not going to be as limited, but it's still very limited. So if you want to get this, I would go ahead and check with retailers and try to get in on it. And I'm not showing. I'm seriously just trying to give you advice here. If you're interested, hop on it. Yeah, because it's not going to be available for long.
I will give I'll give a little piece of advice as well, because like Sam said, we're not shilling here, but if you're legitimately interested in trying to get this console, I talked to my friend at GameStop the other day about it, about pre-ordering it. He says they're not on the list of retailers yet. He's not sure if they're going to be allocated for it. So the best thing to do is keep checking back on the PlayStation site, because eventually they're going to update in the next week or two a list of supported retailers. And then once they announce the list of supported retailers, you have to go to their site. And then when it actually drops on August 24th, you'll have to be super fast. Super fast, because this thing's going to be gone in seconds.
Yeah, people will stay up and take the day off of work just to get one of those things.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. That was even more limited than I thought it was. No, there were only 12,300 copies of that 20th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So that was even more limited than I thought it was.
Yeah.
And that's not even the Slim. That's just the old OG PS4, correct?
That was an OG PS4. But to be fair, the OG PS4 is better than the Slim, so that's fine. Sue me. It is. The OG PS4 was better.
My Slim takes offense to that.
The angles were better than the fudge cookie. Angles over fudge cookie.
Hey, you leave the fudge cookie alone.
Shoot.
So yeah, congrats to PlayStation on moving 500 million units. That's a hell of a milestone for a company.
Absolutely. Speaks to their history within the industry.
500 million, man. It's still kind of mind-boggling, not gonna lie.
Well, you think about it. At some point, no matter if you're an Xbox guy, PC guy, if you're a Nintendo guy, at some point in your life cycle, if you've played video games, you've owned a PlayStation console.
Probably.
There's a good chance, at least.
PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4. I owned a PS3 and a PS4. I played the heck out of my friends' PS2s. I still think one of my favorite consoles of all time will always be the PS2 Slims they had, the really itty bitty ones that literally you could fit in a grocery bag. They were fantastic for taking on the go back in the day when your friend was like, "Oh, come fight me." Oh, okay, well I'll bring the whole damn console. But yeah, so congrats PlayStation on moving those units. Very well deserved. And they're well on their way to 1 billion eventually down the road when I'm older. So we're going to talk a little bit before we dive into the last topic. We're going to talk a little bit about this Obsidian rumor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to let Sam talk about this one off the introduction, because he goes through Reset Era and has a better grip on the actual rumor. And I have more conjecture versus and my point of view on it rather than the actual information. So Sam, you introduced this topic, so to speak.
Okay. So I want to make something very clear before we dive in on this. We have not written this up on our website due to a lack of tangible evidence. I will write a rumor up if I feel there's enough. We will write rumors up if there is tangible evidence. We're not opposed to it, but we are opposed if there isn't a ton of stuff going for it, if there isn't a material that we can look at. Like when I wrote up the Playground Games acquisition rumors, there were files, there were documents leaked that we were able to post and take a look at. So the only reason we're even talking about this at all is because the person who says this is happening has a near perfect track record. I just want to make that very clear and put that on public record right now. That's the only reason this is even being discussed. But this comes from Reset Era user Clobreel. If you're in the Microsoft first party thread or any of the Xbox game related threads, you probably know who that is. If you don't, he is someone, we don't know who he is, that has access to some classified information at Microsoft. Somehow, some way, we don't know how. And he has been very accurate in the past. He leaked information about their E3 2016 showing. He got 90% of it right, from Halo Wars 2, Dead Rising 4, the State of Decay 2 reveal, the Halo Wars 2 beta even. All of it was right, except he predicted that Age of Empires 4 was going to happen, which didn't happen until a year later. So he was even right about that part. It was just a year delay. Maybe the game got delayed, from when it was originally going to be announced. Yeah. He correctly predicted that Microsoft was going to be acquiring several new studios. We saw at E3 that happen. And he specifically name-dropped Playground Games back in April. I want to say it was around April 20th or somewhere around there earlier this year. He mentioned that Microsoft had filed a letter of intent acquisition. So now, with all that being said, the point is this guy has a track record. He has a history. He's trustworthy. Okay. Clobreel posted today that he has, not today, excuse me, couple of weeks ago, I think, wasn't about 8 or 9 days ago?
Maybe about there, yeah.
Maybe a little less than a week. Okay, somewhere in there, that he had come across a letter of intent acquisition for Microsoft to acquire Obsidian Entertainment. And a letter of intent is basically something that U.S. corporations have to go through in the U.S. to tell the government, hey, we're not antitrust. We're not trying to create a monopoly. We want to acquire this company. Here's the legal guesswork. We can all see each other's dirty laundry, no secrets, blah, blah, blah. It's basically the final step before an acquisition is solidified, 100%. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's a very serious thing. And Clobreel, the user on Reset, posted that this letter of intent for Microsoft to acquire Obsidian Entertainment has been signed by Obsidian employees. He said it has not yet been signed, or at least the version he saw has not yet been signed by Microsoft employees. So, there you go. That's what that is. Nick, anything else you want me to say, or is that an accurate dump of information?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I just knew that you could more eloquently deliver the information, and you never fail me on that. So yeah, Obsidian. Just a brief rundown for people, because a lot of people, and it breaks my heart that I had to ask too, what did Obsidian make? Obsidian made a RPG called Pillars of Eternity, which from what I was reading online is fantastic. I haven't played it myself. I still have Divinity Original Sin 2 I need to play. I've got a mountain of RPGs to get through. But they did Fallout New Vegas. They did the first South Park, not the Fractured Butthole. What was the first one? Sick Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What else did they do? I had a list. They're basically an RPG studio, essentially. They do a lot. They were working originally on there was an exclusive Xbox RPG. What was it called? Stormlands. That's what it was. And that got canceled, unfortunately, because the scope of the game was too large for the budget. They did Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic
2.
They did Alpha Protocol, which was a fantastic game. They did Dungeon Siege 3.
Right. A tiny little game called Fallout New Vegas. A couple of people might recognize that.
People might recognize that one. Armored Warfare, which actually just hit console. Yeah, so
and it's worth noting that they assisted BioWare for Baldur's Gate and its expansions. They assisted them with developing that.
They've done a lot of assist work as well. Neverwinter Nights 2 they did. There's a bunch of, like I said, they're primarily an RPG studio. That's what they're known for. Is they either work on or assist or develop RPGs extensively. And what is the one thing Microsoft needs so desperately in their catalog? RPGs.
Yep,
yeah, they
absolutely.
do. They definitely do.
And we all know that the Second Playground Studios, that's what that's supposed to be. Initiatives most likely working on something that's action RPG in vein. But those things, all these things take time, everything else. Obsidian's got a lot of talent, but unfortunately, financially, they're not in the best of spots.
No, and that's been the case for the past 7 or 8 years, actually.
I think I was reading online. I think it was Pillars of Eternity was actually Kickstarted originally.
Yes, it was. Pillars of Eternity and Pillars of Eternity 2. Both were done through Kickstarter.
Yeah. And Obsidian did a really good job on delivering on both of those games. Like I said, I haven't played them myself, but they've actually got pretty decent reviews. 7 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s, everything else. So they've got a pretty good consistent RPG basis, and Microsoft needs an RPG studio. These guys are in financial trouble. They'll be a lot cheaper because of that aspect. They're looking for a buyer. It's been no secret. A couple of months ago, I can't remember who dug it up, but someone pointed out that the head honcho at Obsidian said they were looking for a publisher to pick them up.
Right.
Because basically they couldn't just keep kickstarting games, because eventually the thing with being a Kickstarter company or a Kickstarter developer is eventually if you have one game that falls flat, that's it, you're done.
Right. And it's a similar situation that Ninja Theory found themselves in. In their video explaining why they were acquired by Microsoft, why they were open to it, they explained, apart from the huge deal that the creative control that we get to keep, get to keep making the games we want. Aside from that, you don't want to continually worry if this game slightly underperforms, are we still going to be able to eat? Well, the studio still exists. That's not something creators want to have to worry about. Having a financially stable publisher to take care of you through the hard times, it makes sense.
Yeah. And see, I think that's the biggest thing people don't understand is with games development is what developers most want is just consistency. And we as people, as a general rule of thumb, I'm not going to say 90% of the population, but a good solid percent of the working population never has to worry about whether will I have a job tomorrow with most companies.
Mm-hmm.
I say there is exceptions to that. There's a lot of exceptions to that. I've worked for quite a few companies where I didn't know if I went into work tomorrow, was there going to be work for me or not. But the thing with games development is you can try and work your tail off on a project and then immediately get laid off. You can look at what happened to developers of Onrush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They literally launched that game on what was it, the Tuesday, and they got laid off on the Wednesday.
It's actually a good game too. That's a whole,
that's a whole spin, and the mistreatment of Evolution Studios as a whole is a long drawn out and sad overlooked situation as a whole. I remember talking to Sam extensively about it, and it's unfortunate because it's a fantastic studio, but with Obsidian, if they were to get bought out by Microsoft, that'd be good for Microsoft because Microsoft's got the quote-unquote open checkbook right now. Microsoft needs RPGs. It kind of makes sense. The only other company I could see that maybe would acquire Obsidian would be Bethesda. But
due to the history. Yeah.
Due to the history.
Yeah.
But Bethesda's extensively growing their own studios right now. There was that new studio they added, QuakeCon. They announced that Sam wrote up, and they're expanding on machine games is being expanded. ID Software is ever growing larger. So them acquiring a studio right now when they have so many, and I feel like Bethesda doesn't need another single player RPG studio. Even though my wife's looking at me like she wants to slap me for saying that.
Probably not. But
well, rest in peace, right, Nick. But yeah, Bethesda's growing a ton internally. That's the thing, right? Like, ZeniMax Media has explicitly explained, like, they've given Battlecry over to them. Battlecry was canceled, and Battlecry Studio has become Bethesda Game Studios Austin. They're going to grow. In fact, Bethesda Game Studios Austin was only revealed after it came out that that's actually what they've been working on. They've been working on Fallout 76, not Battlecry, which is like, that's a huge deal. And now Escalation Studios, which was a tiny, like a 50, 60 man support team. They helped with Doom. They helped with Doom 3 BFG edition. And I think they did some contract work on one of their other games. Now they're going to be doing like post-launch support for Fallout 76. And they're going to be growing so that they can help develop for Starfield, which is awesome. It's great to see Bethesda growing internally like that with their RPG teams. But yeah, I have to agree. They don't need another RPG studio.
No,
Microsoft, really, on the other hand, is currently hiring for one RPG studio. They could definitely use it.
Yeah, and the thing is like, I would rather. It's the same thing I said when Ninja Theory got bought. Would have been cool for Ninja Theory to be able to say a small independent studio and strike out on their own. Awesome, if they could. But I would rather Microsoft, and this applies to all companies. I'd rather Microsoft, Nintendo, I'd rather the big publishers buy up these small studios and prevent them from going under than these studios going under. I agree.
We're not cheering corporate acquisition for the sake of corporate acquisition. We're cheering it in terms of, okay, these creators are now safe.
Yes.
Nothing's going to happen to them.
And that's the biggest misconception people have with my view personally. It's not, oh yeah, Microsoft bought another studio. For me, that's another studio that's not going to have to worry about their next check, so to speak. And like, people can sit there and go, oh well, Microsoft shuts down studios and they're the dream killer because they shut down Lionhead and they shut down they canceled Scalebound and et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, Microsoft has a really bad reputation this generation for that. But Nintendo and Sony have just as bad a reputation, if not worse, than Microsoft for canceling and shutting down studios. PlayStation itself in the past decade has shut down 20 plus of its studios.
I mean, yeah, keep in mind that Sony, and not to rag on Sony, but we're just like, look, for the sake of fairness here, they acquired Psygnosis, which was a huge publisher. It was an acquisition so big, it was investigated by the U.S. government. Okay, that's how big this was, because the government was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then 90% of the workforce and the studios and the publisher itself were canceled. They're only holding on to Studio Liverpool. That's the only thing they've kept out of that whole acquisition. So, and that's not a rag on Sony moment. Like, I understand why some of these decisions are made, but generally speaking, and by that, the little asterisk mark, what I mean is everyone but EA, okay? There's a reason these things are done. It sucks. We don't like it. But this doesn't just happen because they're like, who can we fire today?
Yeah,
who can we a lot of business and financial
that's not why this happens. Okay, there are reasons this kind of thing happens. So,
I agree.
Anyways,
I can feel the dislikes coming already. But that's the thing. What people don't understand is I'll use an example that's outside of video games. I work for a paint and chemical manufacturing company. Mm-hmm. And we do a lot of subcontracting to smaller side companies. And sometimes if someone doesn't hit their numbers or they don't hit their production project for the year, their contract gets pulled and those people get laid off. They lose their jobs and everything else. It sucks, but it's corporate. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. At the end of the day, if you're not putting out products fast enough and you're not producing what you need produced for the money that's being inputted, you will get shut down. And it's even a more shame is when hardworking studios, they're churning out games, get shut down.
Right.
And the quality of games is going up and the cost of development is going up astronomically. And you just have to look at example. Stinger from NLG Podcast sent me this number. It was months ago now. And I was talking about how I think it was like 2004, Ubisoft published and developed like 92 games. And it cost them something like I'm just going to give a fake number because I can't remember the exact number. Say $14 billion, and then Ubisoft published and developed 16 games in 2016 or 2017 or wherever year it was. And it cost them more money than it cost them to develop and publish those 97 games than it did.
Crazy.
Because of the size and scale. You look at games like Red Dead, no studios got that budget.
No, only Rockstar, Take-Two Interactive could do this, and that's because they have 8 Rockstar studios that they've all funneled in on this. Just for clarification, that's like that would be like having Sony commit Guerrilla Games, Sony Bend, Oregon, Media Molecule, Naughty Dog, Sony Santa Monica, Sony San Mateo. Who else? Who else can we throw in there? Studio Liverpool and Northwest or Manchester Studio all work on the same game. That's the scale of the kind of project we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's no small feat. I mean, you got to give those guys credit with something that ginormous, and you just go, well, this game's gonna be good.
And see, the thing is that I the one thing I fear and one thing I hate about social media aspects of video games is we see a game like Red Dead, and the same thing happened with Horizon Zero Dawn as well, is once a developer takes it to that next level, we expect every developer to take it to that level.
Right. Like, please do not harass anyone expecting them to ever accomplish something on the scale of what Rockstar is doing with Red Dead 2.
I agree.
It's
like no small feat. The amount of detail that goes into Red Dead 2 is going to surpass any video game. Like, you remember when everyone was losing their mind? I did too. Remember when you're walking up the mountain in God of War and you were leaving accurate footprints?
Incredible. Absolutely
incredible. Except Rockstar's doing this with the whole damn environment.
Right.
Not just snow. And that's the thing, is you can't hold everyone to that standard. Like, yeah, that is the gold standard, but that is also the gold budget standard. Because what people don't understand is Take-Two Interactive's got all these Rockstar studios. You got all the money they made from GTA Online. You get all the money they make off 2K. You add all that in together, they've got the budget to do that and still make money. 98% of studios can't do that. Yeah. And to wrap up the whole Obsidian talk, if Obsidian can stay out on their own and keep making games, awesome. But if they need to sell, I support them. I support them either way. Whether they
go to someone who,
go to someone that will support you and provide the best for your development team. And Microsoft is looking to change their perception. And if they take a studio like Obsidian, took them out of the brink of bankruptcy, and they turn out a really good game because of that, that makes Microsoft look good. It starts working on their negative image they have in the industry. Right. And it saves Obsidian, gives them a possibility to maybe even grow their studio.
Right. I would love another classic RPG like Dragon Age, since Dragon Age seems to be on ice right now with BioWare working on Anthem. Like, there is a void in the market for that kind of game, you know, where you have a hero, but you've also got a bunch of party members on a fantastical quest and stuff like that. Like, that's right up Obsidian's alley.
Make a new dungeon. Reimagine Dungeon Siege. Reimagine Dungeon Siege.
Or do a sci-fi one. Do a sci-fi CRPG. Imagine how cool that would be.
Nice.
There's a ton of stuff out there that they could do.
Yeah, but for sure. They've got options. I hope whether Microsoft buys them, Bethesda buys them, they find another buyer. I don't care if Sony buys them, Nintendo buys them to make RPGs on the Switch. I don't care. I just hope I don't have to wake up and see Obsidian Studios is closing. I don't want to see that.
Right. No. Whatever we have to see to keep that from happening.
Exactly. So our final topic for today, and I know none of us have Switches, but I feel like we can all appreciate this, is I kind of want to talk about the level of fan service that Smash is delivering.
Yeah.
It's impressive, to say the least.
Thing is with the Smash community as a whole, they're a very finicky fan base. They want everything and they want it right now. That describes a lot of hardcore fan bases, basically.
Yep.
But they went into, objectively, Sakurai went into this Smash game and went, we are going to give them everything. There's going to be nothing you can criticize us about with this.
Literally everything they gave them.
Yeah, 90 plus stages. Like, the only thing hardcore Smash fans are whining about, and it's only a small percentage of them, is the lack of Waluigi, which
it's one character out of how many are in there? 90, 100?
Well, like you've got,
there can be only Wah.
Like, we all know Wario's the good character out of that pair anywhere. But like, you've got there's like Castlevania characters in there. There's
King K. Rool. After all these years,
I want it so bad just to play him. I'm not.
It's only a matter of time.
The reveal with Donkey and Diddy Kong's eyes shattering the glass as they're screaming. It's the whole trolling thing.
The fact they straight up murdered Luigi in the one trailer blows my mind.
Yeah, like, here's the thing. I don't ever want to hear anyone say Nintendo is out of touch and doesn't understand their fan base. No, they understand their fan base perfectly well. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is probably the best example of fan service I've ever seen in a game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to say, I think Nintendo's out of touch with gaming in 2018. I don't mean that as a derogatory way. I think
you're talking about like business stuff.
Yeah, like in the sense of they don't have a huge multiplayer focus. They've got some games like Splatoon and stuff that have more of a multiplayer focus. They've kind of adapted that way, but like their online service is weird, and like they've done some really backwards things. But they've got one of the few video game consoles where they can put out a game and they get like 90% attach rate for their games. Like, I think it's like the attach rate on Zelda is like upwards of 80% of all Switch owners own Legends of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I could
actually afford a Switch right now. The only game I actually want to play is Zelda on the Switch right now. And that's the only game I'll buy that platform for.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing with Nintendo consoles, man. I talked to Mike P. the Truth about this. Nintendo understands why you play Nintendo games.
Mm-hmm.
They know you're not going to buy a Switch to play Call of Duty. You're not going to buy a Switch to play Destiny.
Those classic games that they have.
They found a good market of crossing over what the 3DS did really well, which is the portability.
Mm-hmm.
And taking their first-party games, putting them, which were great games, porting over great Wii U titles. Hello, Super Mario Maker, any day now.
Hey, where's my Wind Waker / Twilight Princess double pack HD?
Oh, remastered. I want remastered.
We need Skyward Sword for the Wii.
Yes.
You know what? Throw Skyward Sword in. Make it a triple pack.
Yeah.
But my basic thought for this outro topic basically is Nintendo clearly has a huge understanding of fan service, especially with Smash on what they did. Is there any other games you think? Is there a game you think gives fan service not on the same levels? Because there's literally nothing.
No, there isn't. There's nothing
to this level. But is there a game you think does fan service really well without shoving it down your throat?
Mass Effect 3, you guys played that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Citadel DLC for Mass Effect 3, where it's this cheesy romp completely filled with jokes, even to the point, and spoiler alert, but the game came out how many years ago? So, I mean, come on here. Where at one point, Shepard is talking about who they need to talk to, who they need to bring in the squad to go track down the bad guy, and then everyone looks at everybody and says, why can't we all just come?
Mm-hmm.
And the very next shot, literally everybody is all chasing after the bad guy instead of being limited to 2 squad mates like the rest of the game. It's in just this cheesy house party they have where there's a ton of jokes and they answer fan questions like, hey, which of the 2 Krogan is stronger? What would happen if these 2 hooked up? Like, it's a bunch of nonsensical jokes that fan fiction authors have all salivated over for years and years of Mass Effect, and they answer them all. And so it's like, if you were into that series like I'm a huge Mass Effect fan, that DLC was pure fan service.
I was also going to kind of mention one, I know there's going to be many people that don't agree with me on this one, but in my eyes, another one that's actually been actively trying very hard is to listen to their fans and actually start making the game more towards what the fans want is Bungie and Destiny 2. Like this next expansion, or this first major expansion of Forsaken, that should be exactly what fans have been asking for so long in regards to content, gameplay, and the story and lore as well. So I'm really curious to see exactly what's going to play with that one. But I like how Bungie has been actively listening to the fans and going, okay, we're constantly, changing our roadmap and on exactly what your guys' feedback is. We're trying to make the game exactly what you want, just so we know the fans are going to keep playing the game down the road, because they have a 10-year roadmap for Destiny when they launched the first one, and that includes Destiny 2. So not 5-year, but 10-year roadmap. And so this 10-year roadmap is coming up pretty close here. So they're coming up on a deadline to where if they don't start listening and start providing that fan service, they might not actually be producing very many games anymore. And I definitely say Smash Bros is truly a testament to fan service. And so I would like a lot of studios to also take after that one too.
I've only got 2 examples, and these are really personal ones. I don't expect a lot of people to be able to relate to these ones.
Mm-hmm.
First one is Duke Nukem Forever, which is an incredibly bad game.
Yeah.
But the amount of in-jokes for Duke Nukem fans and knocks at other franchises was hilarious because of how bad the game was. Like when you first step out of the hotel and you're heading to the arena, and they're like, "Oh, Duke, we've got this armor for you," and it's Master Chief's armor. He's like, "Armor's for pansies." That's not the exact wording, but I'm trying to keep it PG.
That's true, but at the same time, I think there's an irony for them to be mocking vastly superior first-person shooters.
That's what makes it so good, though.
I've never been a Duke Nukem fan. You got to keep that in mind. So I'm coming at this from a different angle. That's fair.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Is people aren't necessarily with mine. It's Duke Nukem I grew up on PC. So Duke Nukem's one of those games where it's I like this game. Duke Nukem Forever was terrible. I will say that till the end of time. It was awful. They should have just tossed it in the garbage can. But as a hardcore Duke Nukem fan, it was hilarious because it was so bad that it was good.
Yeah.
It was still bad, though. And another game that did fan service really well was Bulletstorm. The amount of Easter eggs and references to Gears and all the things they did in that game. That game was a parody of Gears, essentially. That's all it really was. It wasn't really anything that was that unique. A lot of people bought Bulletstorm because it had the Gears of War 3 beta included. Let's be real. That was the only way to play the Gears of War 3 beta, so that's why people bought Bulletstorm.
Basically, yeah.
But it had great fan service because it had movie references. It had it was just absolutely fantastic. Nothing's gonna top Sam's recommendation of the Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC is the best encompassing, especially since that was the end of the trilogy.
Right.
And they did homage to all 3 games within one DLC. That is insanely well done. And I just don't think a lot of developers can do fan service without it coming across as corny or lackluster.
It's difficult. It's much more difficult than you think. This is a mild example of fan service, but I'll tell you this. One of the Halo Wars 2 leaders is Yap Yap the Destroyer. It's a grunt gotten high off of methane and leads an army of grunts. It's about as ridiculous as it sounds, but it works. He has grunt goblins, which are giant grunt mechs. His basic troop is cannon fodder, which is a bunch of unarmed grunts. And the whole thing is just a joke about how grunt-focused his faction is. The upgrade for the cannon fodder is called ankle biters. And it slightly increases grunt damage that they do because they're biting the enemy's ankles. And then one of his leader powers, the other leaders, for people who don't understand, have powers like calling in repair drones to come and repair vehicles and heal people up, or calling in a wave of sentinels or an orbital strike, cool flashy powers. One of his is, "Please don't shoot me," where he begs the enemy not to shoot him, and his troops can't be attacked for 10 seconds. It's absurd, but it's balanced with all the other super serious, not funny leaders. And it's like, yeah, that's fan service. That's playing to people's expectations of, you know what, the grunts are ridiculous. Here, just have this.
Basically, yeah. Enjoy it. That's actually pretty cool. I didn't know about that.
I didn't really know about that either, but I kind of want to. Is that DLC leader?
It is. Yeah, he's one of the DLC leaders. Just pick up all the DLC. Like, you picked up the expansion, right?
Yeah.
So pick up the season pass, because the season pass includes all the different leaders.
Because I kind of want to do that, because I just kind of want to do like old school Zerg Rush, except with just grunt rush.
My brother has actually adapted to using tactics of just waves of cannon fodder to disturbing efficiency. It's pretty crazy.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. But yeah, no, those are some great examples of fan service. So we're gonna wrap up this episode. This was a really good episode, guys.
It was great.
I want to thank everybody for stopping by and everything else. So I'll let the guys do their outros. They can plug any content or anything they want. So Sam?
Yeah, thank you for tuning in, guys. I'm amazed we basically got through this in an hour and a half, because we went through a ton of topics, actually.
We did.
This was a really good episode. This was some great talk. This was fantastic. Yeah. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in, or if you weren't able to tune in, but you're going to listen afterwards. We appreciate every single view. We appreciate every single one of you who comes in, leaves a like or a comment, subscribe, any of that regular YouTuber jazz. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Samuel Talbert. I'll happily talk about movies, games, TV shows, tech with you, whatever you want there. And then I'm writing on tickgamesnetwork.com, writing and editing pieces for these two gentlemen as well. So come check that out. We had a couple of reviews drop recently. Nick reviewed Earthfall. Jared reviewed Vermintide 2. Please look at that. There may or may not be a couple of other reviews and opinion pieces dropping finally within the next couple of days. So please take a look at that. And yeah, have a great night.
Yeah. Jared?
Well, everybody can find me at gamesnetwork.com for now opinion pieces and reviews, and of course news on top of that as well, and on Twitter at RageVirus_X.
Right on. And you guys can find me on the Inner Circle Games Network as well. Surprise, surprise. Where you'll find reviews and everything else. My review schedule this week. I'll tell you what. So I've got the Overcooked 2 review, which will hopefully be out Monday, optimistically. I'm going to beat the game tonight. I'm on the last 2 worlds. Really challenging by yourself near the end.
I believe it.
But I'm getting there. Fantastic game. Review will be out for that on Monday. I'm going to start We Happy Few tonight.
Nice.
Really interested to dive into that game and see what's changed since the first week of its launch back a few years ago. So going to dive back into that. Review for that. I'm going to give myself a grace period of at least next weekend, because I want to fully complete the campaign and dive into the survival aspects and everything else. Because there's going to be a lot to tackle in that game.
There is. There's a lot of stuff to tackle. Trust me.
So that's going to be a challenge. But my review after that's Strange Brigade, but that's not till the end of the month. So I'll have a nice break near the middle. So yeah, that's it from us. You can find me on Twitter at Undead3XVI. It's my birthday on Monday, so
woohoo!
There's no multiverse show on Monday, so you guys don't get to harass me online.
Oh man.
You guys will harass me in the group chat anyways.
Yeah, we will. Don't worry.
I mean, yeah, we will.
Yeah.
It's just
all right. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. Hope everyone has a great Saturday night, and we will see you next week with a brand new set of topics and a guest. So have yourselves a fantastic Saturday and enjoy the rest of your weekend.